Columbia Police, at approximately 6:45 p.m., Columbia Police responded to a report that an individual had been pushed over a bridge at Clark Lane and northbound Highway 63. Upon arrival, an individual was located who needed medical attention, and we have identified a person of interest.
It's Columbia Police Department spokesman Christian Tabak yesterday talking to our news partners, ABC 17. People suck. Man, we do a lot of horrible things. You know, we assault people and we drive vans around the state of Illinois and pull up across the Eads Bridge there across from St. Louis so people from St. Louis come over and get abortions. We do some crazy stuff as people. But to push somebody off the 6370 interchange, I probably shouldn't be laughing. But I'm just trying to visualize that and I'm going to assume, and I'm going to stereotype because stereotyping works a lot. I'm going to assume this wasn't two chicks fighting at the 6370 interchange. I'm just going to make that assumption and that stereotype. If everybody's cool with that. Everybody's cool with that stereotype. Probably wasn't two chicks.
Sure.
All right.
Do we know if he was trying to save other people? Because there's this really weird hypothetical where, like, if you had a train switch, would you, and you knew that you could save one person or save 5 people, would you pull the switch to save 5 people and kill the one person? And everyone says yes. And then the other question is, okay, if it's not a switch and instead you have to shove someone over to kill one person to save 5 people, then people are like, no. But it's really the same thing. So was the person trying to save anybody?
Maybe this was happening.
No.
No? You're no, you, Stephanie, Brandon, you guys are way off.
Well, and the police are being, and it's all fair questions, but the police are being a little bit vague here. But I think what's significant in Christian Tabak spoke for about 2.5 minutes, Brandon and Stephanie, but the fact that they brought in the criminal investigations unit tells you everything you need to know. That this is not somebody who was trying to save somebody. This obviously they believe was criminal intent. They do. The one thing I've noticed with a lot of these recent incidents is they always say it's not a threat to the general public, or there's no threat to the general public. And I get certainly what they're saying. They're saying this is not, without saying it, it's not a random thing. It's still troubling, though. It's still troubling.
Then the other thing I automatically go to, and Marsh, you might remember when we were kids. And I don't know if you know any of your buds or siblings or anything. Like, siblings can be the worst. Like, I remember one time my brother was in a bathtub, and I was 8 years old. He was 6, and I took our family cat. It was a tabby cat, and we called it Tabby because my family lacked any creative skills. And I took Tabby the cat. And
is this a story about how your brother was terrible or how you as a brother were terrible?
So I, as a brother, was terrible. I picked up Tabby the cat while my brother was taking a bath and threw it in the bathtub with him because I was mad.
That's horrible.
Because he wouldn't let me play with his Star Wars action figures.
It's horrible for your brother and Tabby.
Yeah.
My sister and I were horrible to each other, and now I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I put the kids in jiu-jitsu, and every once in a while...
Oh, God. That's dangerous.
I'll hear, like, arm bar. I'm like, no, jiu-jitsu in the house. But, yeah, siblings, Chris had... he's one of 4, and they were rough and tumble.
What about you and your sister?
We were horrible to each other. I specifically remember, like, opening a door and, like, just chucking shoes, and then slamming the door again. Like, we were just miserable to each other.
I mean, I don't...
Oh, he told us, he said, girls, take it outside and, solve this amongst yourselves.
I mean, as much as my brother and I fought, I have always thought that the relationship between sisters is even more brutal. Mm-hmm. I don't have any biological sisters, but just watching sisters fight sometimes is really scary.
Sisters are brutal. My sister, who is now a police chief here in Missouri, she stabbed me with a screwdriver one time in her kitchen on 4021 Wyoming Street. Stabbed me in the stomach.
What did you do to deserve it?
Well, that's not important, Hannah.
Oh, okay.
So that's I'm redacting. I'm a selective memory. It's a combination of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So I'm redacting some parts of the story. But that's the other thing. So apparently 6370 got to be probably without a doubt busiest intersection in mid-Missouri, and somebody went and pushed. Now, I don't know if they landed like on so if they landed down on 70, if they landed, obviously didn't land on the interstate, I'm guessing they probably wouldn't be here, or on the hillside. I don't know what happened, but that's the other thing. Maybe this was just a couple of siblings fighting,
it's hard to tell where and I'm a little unclear of how far the bridge was. Christian didn't have a whole lot of those details. What we do know, Brandon, is it shut down the Clark Lane area near Steak and Shake for hours at least, and I finally heard it on the scanner when they reopened it. It was probably at least 4 to 5 hours to give them time to investigate. But the closest bridge I can think of, and they were kind of vague even on TV last night, it would be near the Steak and Shake. It'd be near the Bob Evans and near where there's a hotel, but on the other side, and they were in the woods. The authorities were definitely searching in those woods there.
Little known fact about Brian Houseworth, famous favorite restaurant. Is it the Bob Evans or Cracker Barrel?
I'd say they're both back to back.
My favorite is just that he tells geography by restaurants, which actually is way easier for me than directions, because if you say like east or west, I'm lost. But tell me like a landmark and I'm good. But I love that he always picks restaurants.
I try to, because I think that's the best way to do it, to at least let people know. But, and I certainly understand why the police are being kind of not given a lot of information, but we do know this, Brandon. No arrests have been made. They have not caught the person of interest.
Dude was hospitalized. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
Good morning, sir.
John Marsh is here. Your favorite restaurant? Houseworth. Man, it's neck and neck. Cracker Barrel or the Bob Evans. What about you? Oscars and those cheeseburgers. Hannah, producer Hannah is here. Favorite restaurant?
Like in general or between the two options?
Okay, between the two farmhouse options, Bob Evans and Cracker Barrel.
I don't think I've ever eaten at Bob Evans, but I do like Cracker Barrel.
All right, Steph.
I've never eaten at Bob Evans, so I would have to pick Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. It's all down-home cooking. My name is Branden Rathert, and of those, my favorite restaurant, probably the Landing Zone or CC City Broiler or Bob Evans.
I was going to say, you and Marsh don't follow directions.
Yeah.
We're dude. So one of the big things yesterday, another busy intersection here in mid-Missouri, a bunch of lawmakers driving their way down Main Street in Capital City yesterday, and they get into that big circular drive around the Capitol, and some of them pull into the Senate parking, and some of the others pull in to the House parking, and they all walk in, and they go through the stuff, and they go to the respective floors. Probably, and I'm wondering, like, did they... Because they probably didn't know that maybe things were going to be wrapped up yesterday, because there had been kind of some uncertainty. Marsh, in all the years that you've been covering stuff here in mid-Missouri, specifically at the Capitol, 30-plus years, was this kind of a janky kind of special session? Yeah. And typically, how is it? You come in a day, maybe two, boom. Let's check in so we get our $125 per diem or the $134. Let's whip this baby out and call it good and go home. Is that typically how it goes? So here's why we like to pay attention to what's happening in Jefferson City. And maybe you're newer to Talk-ish radio. Maybe you're younger and you're trying to figure things out. Well, let me help you figure this part out for you. What happened in this special session? We are helping one of the biggest industries in Missouri. First, second, differing numbers out there. Almost $100 billion is the ag industry. Ag cuts approved. Governor Parson, I think, during the Gary Nolan show, about 10:15, when Gary Nolan is here on the radio station, he's going to take out his pen. He's going to sign 2 bills, not just the ag tax cuts, but also if you earn money from the state of Missouri, your paycheck is going to look different because of a Republican-controlled legislature and a governor who is signing it. You are going to have a little bit more money in your paycheck. And thank God, just in time, because gas prices are going back up. OPEC wants to cut production. Yet somebody texted the other day, this Nord Stream pipeline.
Was it a Hillary Clinton joke?
No, it wasn't a Hillary Clinton joke. It was, so what happened to this pipeline? This is natural gas, and this is going to screw with things. Did the United States sabotage it? Was it Russia? And somebody texted, and they said, well, was it maybe just some kids, just vandalism? Maybe we're making too big of a deal out of this. And I said, it's a great thought, except it's under the ocean. So I don't think that is what happened. Kids didn't go and throw rocks at this and do vandalism.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening with OPEC today only really supports Russia. And if they limit supply, then essentially because Russia is such a big producer, it will boost funds in Russia so that way they can fund their failing war in Ukraine. And it's, a terrible policy. But, I don't know really if there's any hope that that's not what's going to happen today.
And this is funny. Don't have time to do it here, but we will. 7:10 if you hold me. If you hold me to it, I'm writing it down on my new on my new dry erase board.
It's very Glenn Beck of you.
7:10 KJP says. So gas prices have been going down a little bit, and remember that they had been over the summer, just like a penny a day for like 100 consecutive days. They were going down after a high of almost $5 here in Missouri. And the White House kept saying, well, we don't control the gas price. Not our fault. Then when they started going down, they said, well, and the president has lowered gas prices. Well, now gas prices continue. Now they're going back up. We saw this a couple of weeks ago. It just exploded in Missouri, went back down. Now they're creeping back up. And now the White House yesterday, Fox's Pete Ducey asked Karine Jean-Pierre, so about that, it wasn't your fault when they went up. You were responsible when they went down. But now... You got to hear the way she answered the question. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
It was good. It was good. And you know what? I forgot to set a reminder in my phone when you told me that gas prices were going up like a couple of weeks ago, and I paid the higher price. So today, I think I might head to the gas station after the show. I've learned my lesson. I'm going to listen.
Governor Mike Parson on the tax cuts in this special session.
But I'm going to tell you this. People are going to have more money in their pocket when I sign that bill, and that's the good news for Missouri.
He's talking about you. You're going to have more money in your pocket. 874-9390, 874-9390. By the way, Caleb Rowden, Missouri Senate leader, he's here, 7:35 this morning, talking about that special session coming to a close. Coming up 5 minutes from now, Daily D.C. Rundown with Stephanie Bell and Circus. I'm walking up to the circus tent here. It's bulging at the seams. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Neutral plans in favor of plans drawn on account of race set Section 2 at war with itself and with the Constitution.
And it's just plain racist if we're going at this from a moral angle, right? That is the Solicitor General of Alabama, Edmund LaCour, talking about this case in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. Quick little civics lesson. First of all, we need to know, what is a Solicitor General, Stephanie Bell?
The Solicitor General is like the person who does all the arguing. So in Missouri, it's John Sauer. He's not really the Deputy Attorney General, but you see him doing most of the big arguments. And most states have an SG.
Or in a marriage, the Solicitor General would be the wife. She's the one who does all
Come
of
on,
that.
Brandon.
It's time. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
So the case is Merrill v. Milligan, and it is dealing with Alabama's redistricting and the Voting Rights Act. Alabama, right now, Republicans control Alabama. They drew a one majority black district. The plaintiffs in the case are pointing out that actually 27% of Alabamians are black and are claiming racial discrimination. The conservative justices seem sympathetic to Alabama's arguments that really there should be a race-neutral approach to redistricting, but of course it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. A lower court, a 3-judge panel, held that Alabama did violate the Voting Rights Act, and now, of course, that's up on appeal to the Supreme Court. And essentially what they're saying is you concentrated, in redistricting terms, it's called packing. You packed all of the black voters into one district and spread them out in all the other districts. Therefore, only an African American could get elected in the one district.
To bring it closer to home, we kind of think about what happened in our redistricting and how they're trying to shape-shift Kansas City and St. Louis, where the large black population centers in Missouri are, and they were trying to dilute that. That's kind of what's at stake here in front of SCOTUS.
Really important case about the Voting Rights Act, so we will be watching that. Also, Republicans are kind of stepping in it this week with respect to the midterms. So we've got issues in Georgia with Herschel Walker, obviously, and that, I mean, I heard someone saying that's just a knockout. Like, it's just...
Record fundraising day for him yesterday.
Whoa, I hadn't heard that.
So I'm wondering, does that mean the conservatives that are throwing money at him, they're like, hey, we don't care about the abortion thing. What everybody's been saying, most people are okay with some type of abortion anyway. It's okay, Herschel. Here's a bunch of money. Is it saying that? Or is it saying, okay, you may have lied, you may have been disingenuous and misrepresented how you feel about abortion, but we don't care. We just need to control the Senate.
Maybe. Well, and I think both sides are basically saying, look, we've got to pitch a perfect game. Like, we do not, there is no margin for error. This thing is, down to the wire. It's close. There for a while we saw, Democrats kind of, get more momentum, and now they're saying that's waned and Republicans have more momentum. I guess, also, and a lot of it does have to do with candidate quality. Apparently, Carrie Lake down in Arizona is also stepping in it. At one point on the radio, she said rare and legal. Abortion should be rare and legal, but she meant and kind of corrected herself, rare but safe. But now Democrats are saying, see, she said it would be legal, and she's having to say, no, like, I meant rare and safe.
I have a question. I don't know if it's rhetorical or what, but I'm being serious here. What if all these conservatives are saying we're adamantly against any kind of abortion? I wonder what would happen if they came out, because I believe a lot of them, I believe they're not passionate about the issue. I really do believe. I'm not saying all of them, and don't get mad. I'm just saying I don't believe all of them are as passionate as they have led us to believe, and I'll tell you why. You got people like Herschel Walker, who may have allegedly gotten somebody an abortion in the past. We've seen a lot of Republicans get squishy on the issue since the Dobbs decision. I wonder what would happen, instead of making this a campaign thing, if these Republican politicians were just completely honest. Like, are you really ambivalent about it, and you only care because it's a campaign thing? It's a political kind of. Do you really care? Are you really that passionate about it?
Do you really think candidates are going to be honest?
My bad. I told you it was a rhetorical question. My bad.
All right. North Korea, I guess, is launching missiles over Japan. We didn't write a strongly worded letter. We're going to agree to coordinate. We're having a meeting or a focus group about it.
Gonna get together. Oh, like Joe and Ron in Florida.
Right.
They have a play date together, and there's some fascinating things behind the scenes there. We'll cover that coming up 5 minutes from now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
This is about peace and security. It's about honoring the UN Charter that calls on us as members of the Security Council to protect peace and security.
Let me see your whole palace, or else.
Or else what?
Or else we will be very, very angry with you. And we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
Has been the administration's policy since those tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. We'll send a letter. And who's today? They're not getting let. People are actually meeting today, you were saying, in your daily D.C. rundown.
They are vowing to meet. So I guess on Tuesday, Joe Biden spoke with the Prime Minister of Japan because North Korea conducted its longest ever launch by firing a nuclear ballistic missile or nuclear capable ballistic missile over Japan. Obviously, Japan's freaked out. And so Joe is talking to Japan. Also, they're talking to South Korea, and they're saying they have agreed to coordinate a response.
So
maybe they're writing a letter. They're having a meeting about writing a letter. I don't know.
I don't know what's going.
But apparently, we tried to launch a missile.
Yeah. This is why this kind of stuff matters. So, we hear about missiles all the time. North Korea. I mean, anytime we hear about it, North Korea has fired a missile to freak people out. Like, and I hate to say it, and I'll admit it, a lot of times people in national news outlets, oh, yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
They've test fired over 40 missiles over 20 launch events just this year.
Yeah. And you can compare the number of times that Lil Kim shot missiles over South Korea. And I don't like to do whataboutism, but you can take the years of 2017 to 2021. How many times did he do that? How many times is he doing it now? Because we have a very weak presence in this world, and we really do. Not a talking point. That's a fact. We have a weak presence anymore since the events of January the 20th of 2021. The world views us way differently now. That's why Russia, for example, invaded Ukraine. And that's not me. Again, not a talking point. That's NATO saying that in Washington, D.C. Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine because they saw Joe's weakness in the sloppy pullout from Afghanistan. We look bad on a worldwide stage, and then we think, oh, just missiles being shot around just to scare people. Nothing will ever come of it. Check this out. Apparently a missile. And Marsh, this kind of stuff always scares me. It's like when you talk about two planes in the sky and we call it a near miss. I always think it's more appropriate to call it, that's a near hit. Don't be, and I'm one of the most optimistic people I know.
Fair.
But when two planes are close in the sky, don't call it a near miss. That was a near hit. Does that make sense to you, Marsh? Mm-hmm. Yep. And then this happened yesterday. A ballistic missile malfunctioned. South Korea in a live fire drill with us, the United States. They were saying, so basically it was just get back at you at North Korea. So they fired a missile, except there was an explosion. And it caused a fire and freaked people out. So you got a lot of people. And this went into the ground Wednesday in South Korea. It goes into the ground. And so you've got these people kind of on edge already. Man, North Korea just fired a missile. And all of a sudden, there's an explosion and a missile. I could imagine you think your life is done, or the world is done as we know it. North Korea's finally fired the... Nope, just a malfunctioning missile. Those are two words that should never, ever go together. Malfunctioning and missile. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah Bryan Houseworth, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. By the way, a week from today, I think is the deadline for registering to vote. I think Wednesday, October the 12th. So you need to get registered by the 12th so you can vote. 39 days from now, or 34 days until the election. I do want to look at a little bit of what's happening with Amendment 3. This is what a lot of folks just refer to as the legal weed amendment. We get to vote on it. The more and more I learn about this, we had somebody call the show the other day, and then he did follow up with an email and saying that there are some provisions as it relates potentially to CRT. in this legalized weed amendment. We're going to cover that at 7:10 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. Some folks that are getting, guess who has a play date today? Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis.
I thought you were going to say you and John Marsh.
Gonna meet. I wonder. Hey, Ron DeSantis and Joe Biden, they go for a burger at your favorite restaurant. John sitting there in a restaurant just grabbing a couple of cheeseburgers. Staunch Republican, staunch progressive, losing his mind Democrat. They just go and sit talk. They are getting together today in Florida, talking about hurricane relief and everybody, the political aspects because they're different parties and they've said this and they've said that. But here's the thing that I think is really fascinating about this. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, whose state just went through a horrible natural event. And you know why that hurricane happened? Because climate change. We didn't have hurricanes prior to climate change. That's what all the national news outlets would have you believe. My God. You talk about a campaign event. Hurricanes, climate change. Been insane. But here's what's really fascinating about this. Remember, it was sometime earlier this year, Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Joe Biden, he goes to Georgia. You got Stacey Abrams, who's trying after her lost election several years ago. Man, the president's coming to Georgia. I better get with him, and maybe we can shake some hands and kiss some babies, and maybe Joe will go out, we'll grab a hammer and put out some yard signs. And she didn't do it. She didn't meet up with him. And I can't remember the exact excuse. Was it she had like a hair appointment or something?
Yeah.
So she didn't. The president comes, you go.
She was alphabetizing her personal library.
I'm clipping my fingernails.
Well, and interestingly, yesterday, I think it was KJP who came out, this is not a time to be political. We need to back off and it's going to be a time for unity. Except Joe Biden this whole time and Kamala have been the one making the hurricane political. Yep. They're talking about, don't use this as an excuse to raise gas prices. Hey, let's dole out the relief based on equity. Mm-hmm. And Republicans are over here like, hey, we're just like trying to, clean this mess up and get people back on their feet. And they're pointing the finger at us, and I'm like, y'all are the ones making this political over here. Pete
Buttigieg, by the way, the latest yesterday to clean up Kamala's mess. Pete Buttigieg, who's about as progressive as they come, said, the natural disasters, they don't know they don't know skin color, man. It's just need. Pete Buttigieg having to try to rescue Kamala Harris. And then, we talk about Joe and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis getting together yesterday recently. Mark Kelly, who's running for re-election, Democrat senator, Arizona, was asked by CNN's Jake Tappers, hey, man, you want Joe to come down here and campaign for you? You're in a pretty tough race.
Would you want President Biden to come to Arizona and campaign with you?
Pause.
Hey, I'll welcome anybody to come to Arizona, travel around the state at any time.
John, what does that sound like to you? Does Mark, I'm just asking you. I don't want to give my opinion. I'll ask you. Jake from CNN, why did you ask me this question?
But if you're DeSantis, are you kind of excited that Biden's, coming down to your state? Because, if you really are going to try to, run against him in 2024, you want to, size him up and get a feel for him in person. And then also, the opportunity to watch him embarrass himself while you're standing right next to him. Do you think DeSantis is kind of pumped up and being like, yeah, come to my state all day long? I want to see this in person and really see how you're doing and check you out.
Front row seat.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, and I don't think DeSantis is a pretty classy guy. He's meeting with the president today, something Stacey Abrams would not do, something that Mark Kelly in Arizona, they don't want to do it. It's taking a conservative to put politics aside and say, yeah, Joe, I will get an ice cream cone with you. We'll wear bomber jackets and wear aviators, and we'll hang out on what's left of one of our beaches, and we'll talk shop, man.
Ride bicycles.
Ride bicycle. We'll do, the thing. We'll or it's pity. Look, I'm doing charitable work. I'm hanging out with the folks that are they're just losing it. But yeah, I would be excited for DeSantis because Stephanie and I and I hate to say this, but we just got to be honest. Every time, I don't think excited is the right word. We get scared every time Joe travels abroad because he embarrasses us on a national stage.
Yeah, it makes me anxious for sure.
And today, Ron DeSantis gets a front row seat. I can imagine Ron DeSantis with his security detail, like, poking him with his own. You guys got to check out what Joe Biden does here now.
He's like, hey, Joe, we're unloading these cases of water. We're jogging over here. Come join me. And maybe he'll, put him through a test, I don't know. We'll see.
By the way, before we move forward here, Tyreek Hill, former, this broke a lot of our hearts whenever he left Kansas City Chiefs. One of probably the best, I think, statistically right now. He leads the league in receiving in the NFL. Broke our hearts when he left the Chiefs. And he ended up playing in Miami. And I don't know if he knows it, but he just dabbled in politics a little bit. So we want to get on to that coming up about 5 minutes from now, hear what he had to say. But first, I want to go back to Mark Kelly a little bit. So you've got a Republican who's going to meet with Joe Biden. You've got Stacey Abrams. She wouldn't do it when he went to Georgia. You got Mark Kelly, who, when was asked, hey, do you want Joe to come to the desert of the Southwest and campaign for you? He was real squishy about it. And then this.
Do you have concerns about whether President Biden is the best candidate to keep Arizona blue in 2024?
Not at all, Jake.
All right, Senator Kelly.
By the way, that's not edited. Completely natural response. Welcome into the show. Glad you're here. By the way, 7:35. Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden is here talking about the end of the
award for this program. It's like this is going to help future generations of not just us, but kids to be inspired to want to come in here and put their hard work in, knowing that the character traits and the personality behind him is just going to just keep driving this program forward.
That's Asher Kemp talking with Channel 8 KOMU, a teacher within the Columbia Public School District. I think it's the Career Center, but he teaches like mechanics. He's got $100,000 from some private company. Teacher gets $30,000, and I think the school gets $70,000. It's pretty cool, but that student speaking very highly of his teacher who teaches kids how to work on cars. And again, I think that goes back to, you see the efforts made, and this is, I think, one of the things that we can compliment the Columbia Public School District and school districts all across mid-Missouri doing a good job of this stuff. And we look at, and not just high schools, but right behind Salter Lawn Service, one of the premier landscaping and lawn maintenance companies in all of Missouri, right behind Salter. That new Rankin Tech has taken shape. Stephanie and I were out there a year ago, where I had one of my most interesting exchanges with somebody from Senator Josh Hawley's office. That was the day, Stephanie. We're standing in this parking lot. They're shoveling dirt on the new Rankin Tech, which is a phenomenal project. A lot of local folks that have made that happen. State Rep Sarah Walsh. And having a conversation with somebody from Hawley's office about his lack of appearances on this show when he's in office. Would always come on and campaign. And I didn't intend for it to get this. I'm a pretty demure guy. Would you agree with that, Steph? Pretty low-key, pretty even. Would you agree?
No.
What?
I also would not agree.
What are you guys talking about? I am always demure and relaxed and chill. What are you talking about?
Simmer down.
You have...
No, I am pretty chill, but I got into this conversation with somebody from Hawley's office and just trying to, I was trying to say, listen, if you don't want to come on, if you just want to go on Fox every night of the week, that's fine. Tell me, I will quit bothering you guys, because Josh, when he was campaiigning for
this is helping our cause right now.
When he was campaigning for Senate, he came on all the time. And I'm trying to have this conversation with the guy. If the answer is just no, I'm not going to send you weekly emails or reach out via text or bug every lawmaker I know, including Roy Blunt, to get you on the show. That's fine. It's not about me. It's about you, the listener. Stephanie had to intervene because I didn't, but I was starting to get a little, because when I get passionate about stuff, I will. And Stephanie kind of physically stepped in.
It's like, these people are my friends. Take a deep breath.
And she said,
you were embarrassing her.
Well, is what...
But aren't you like the king of ghosting? And didn't Josh Hawley just ghost you?
Josh, I don't know if he ghosted me. Who have I ever ghosted?
Everybody.
That's not true.
There's lots of women in your life who would beg to differ.
I've never ghosted anybody in the past couple of days. But it was at Rankin Tech where Stephanie had to intervene. I think what Branden is trying to say. So kudos to them. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Branden Rathert, John Marsh, Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah Brian Houseworth, all here. By the way, education, your kids' education. Jean Evans, she's here at 8:35 this morning. She's with the Federation for Children talking about Education Savings Account, the Education Savings Account program. Pretty interesting. If you have kids in school, you definitely want to check that out, 8:35. Tyreek Hill, he's plying his skills in Miami now. He was asked over the weekend about, so he had an opportunity to go to another team. Miami Dolphins weren't the only suitor. There was an option. He could have went and played New York, and I think it was the Jets, not the Giants. And a reporter asks him about his decision, like, why did you pick Miami over New York? New York, largest media market in America.
You know what? It was very close to happening, man. But it's just those state taxes, man. You know, I realized, I had to make a grown-up decision, and here I am in the great city of Miami. Great.
Man, he's dabbling into politics, and I don't think he doesn't know it. That's like national campaign stuff. We have people from Texas, California, and Florida run national campaign ads. Hey, come to Florida. You don't like these income tax? You don't like this? Come here. Boom.
And we say, like, for us regular folks, right? Like, state income tax isn't the biggest chunk of your taxes. It makes a difference. But it... Exactly. Once the numbers get that big, it's going to make a big difference for folks like that.
So I love that. Tyreek Hill saying, sometimes I got to be an adult and make decisions. Do I want to be in the largest media market, or do I want to give less of my money to the government? to go out and do things like buy homeless shelters, which just happened or is in the process of happening in Columbia. No, I want to hold on to my money. Florida it is. Coming up, Brian Houseworthy is joining us. What happened in the Capitol yesterday as it relates to the ag tax cuts. We're going to cover some of that. And then looking at this Amendment 3 regarding some little-known provisions in this. This is the weed legalization bill. Steph and I on that. Coming up 7:10.
I'm going to tell you this, people are going to have more money in their pocket when I sign that bill, and that's the good news for Missouri.
Governor Mike Parson, big story today. Special session in Jefferson City is over. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5. KWOS, there's Stephanie Powell.
Good morning.
You're going to have a little bit more money in your paycheck.
Thank goodness. I got a lot of gas I need to buy.
Yeah, this is good news for us here in Missouri. Good news, just in time. Gas prices starting to go back up. Producer Hannah, you're going to have more. I'm like Oprah Winfrey. You get more money in your paycheck. You get more money in your paycheck.
You're not Oprah Winfrey. Governor Parson is Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, don't take credit.
There's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh, you get more money. And no car. You get more money in your paycheck, and you can do that. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you. That bill will be signed into law today, and we'll get some new numbers. The governor tells me we'll get new numbers today about the impact it will have. He's definitely aware, Brandon, that the Democrats are saying it's a giveaway to the wealthy. He disagrees with that. The Democrats are standing by what they're saying, so the governor is going to come up with some new numbers about what it will mean for people in terms of money in the pocketbook, and what I guess we'll find that out this morning at 10:15. But really, it boils down to the two parties really see this differently. The Republicans say it will benefit the working people and everybody, kind of a rising tide lifts all boats. Democrats say that this is definitely geared to the rich and the wealthy.
By the way, so you were hanging out with the governor yesterday.
I was. I caught him before. I caught him during it. It was right in the middle of our show, so I had to run over towards the end. But I got him over at the Holiday Inn Select towards the end of his presentation with the Fulton middle school principal, and I was able to get some comments from him on the tax cut and also on his presentation.
All right. And before, because I want to highlight something that the governor said here, I'm like, yeah, that's how you handle that. And it's something he said about one of the lawmakers from an opposing party, but I thought it was tactful, something he actually told you.
Yes.
Getting word right now, apparently, according to Twitter and the Columbia Police Department, they say there was an individual who was thrown from the 6370 overpass last night, had traffic shut down. Apparently, it was a female that was thrown from the bridge, and apparently she has died. That's according to a tweet.
Yeah, the Columbia Police Department released a short video on their Twitter page, and they have detained the person that they believe threw her over the bridge, 31-year-old Jesse R. Williams, who was on parole for stabbing a homeless man in 2018.
Oh, boy. That's a story that Brad Trinago covered, by the way, Williams. I remember him reporting on that, but yeah, that's terrible.
Brad Trinago. A lot of people still from time to time. Whatever happened to Brad Trinago? He's working for Mizzou Sports.
I got to see him last Saturday.
Yeah. So it's cool. You got to see him too, Marsh? So it's cool whenever we do our Tiger tailgates, right by where we're set up, there's a stage where Brad is doing pregame radio show for the Mizzou football games, and usually you walk right over and say hello to Brad Trinago. And if you want to join us for our Tiger tailgate, you go to our websites, 939theeagle.com or KWOS.com, and thanks to Bud Light, High Noon Hard Seltzers, Buffalo Wild Wings, and Culligan and Mid-Missouri, man. You just go to a bunch of businesses you can go to, starting like Wednesday prior to a game. You can pick up passes free. Come join us. All right, back to Governor Parson. He was in Columbia yesterday. Was he here talking about tax cuts, or was it something else that he was here for?
No, he was here. It is the national. They wrapped their conference up yesterday, Brandon. Two different associations were having a joint meeting. The Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals, and the other group was called the Missouri Association of basically career administrators. But he was there to talk about the role that principals and teachers play in their people's lives, and also to present a proclamation recognizing this as National Principals Month. When he got done, I obviously asked him about that. We're going to have a soundbite, very powerful, about the principal. But I definitely asked him about Leader Quaid's criticism, because she said it's going to blow a $2 billion hole in the budget. And I asked him what he thought of that.
Crystal Quaid's just more in the political scenario there, and it's unfortunate because you're really getting to help people that we'll have statistics on that, but you're getting to help everyday people here. It was unfortunate, some of the political tactics used, but it's just the arena that you're in sometimes.
As a matter of fact, it is disappointing. She's just playing politics, but he didn't use it as an opportunity to take a dig or any. Crystal Quaid, Minority Leader, Springfield area.
Yes.
She's been on our show a lot recently. Most recently, I think she was upset because the Capitol was flush in orange lights, and she was upset about it.
And, you know, she is someone who is, a lot of Democrats believe she's a rising star in the Democratic side. The governor and her have kind of a frosty relationship. I mean, they're civil to each other, but her whole position on this, Brandon, is that instead of using the excess money, if you will, the $1 billion, although she said it'll have a $2 billion impact overall, instead of putting that back into tax cuts that she says are going to benefit the wealthy, her argument here, and we should give her side, and I've tried to do this in the stories, is that pay the people at the Department of Social Services, particularly the Children's Division, give them more money because their turnover is high. She says that we have one employee that works for the state at Children's Division in Jefferson City who is selling his plasma to make ends meet. So that is her argument on this. The governor says we are funding these departments at record levels and we can give money back. And the General Assembly agrees with the governor, but Quaid stands by her position. Leader Quaid stands by her position.
Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden, he's here on the show. Coming up 7:35, end of special session. You're getting more money in your paychecks, and then the ag tax cut thing. We're going to be covering that 7:35 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Look at what you just stepped in.
You are about to enter the no zone.
This is the O'Reilly Factor with Branden Rathert.
Yes, I hit Brandon with a stick.
All right, the O'Reilly Factor. That's where we take what politicians, talking heads, we take what they say and then run it through the fact check. And I got to start here. This has to do with Amendment 3, the legalized weed on the ballot November the 8th. 34 days from now. Is your ID all up to date and stuff? You probably have an ID, but for it to be valid, it's got to not be expired. By the way, I think it's 1 week from today is your last day to register to vote. So I got an interesting phone call from a gentleman on the show the other day. Kind of piqued my curiosity. Hadn't heard a whole lot about it. And then he went on to send me an email. And I'll read some of what the email before we run this through the O'Reilly Factor. Amendment 3, legalized weed, basically. The more and more I learn about this, and we knew there's some peripheral stuff in there, as there are with a lot of issues that we get to go and vote on. A lot of other things in there that you kind of go, huh. But he writes, Amendment 3, 39 pages long, the longest amendment in the history of our state, and it contains a destructive Trojan horse provision that will enshrine critical race theory in the Missouri Constitution. And right away, critical race theory, I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about critical race theory being taught in schools, and how is this applying to legalized weed? And it goes on, Amendment 3 is publicized as the recreational marijuana amendment. It also establishes a chief equity officer to establish public education programming, position not appointed by the governor with advice and consent of the Missouri Senate, and therefore offers no representative oversight. The chief equity officer would be constitutionally mandated to produce critical race theory aligned programming. As a chance would have it, for again, you know, we always talk about poll numbers and for what they're worth. Fact checks, I think we could say, for what they're worth. Because you know who gets fact checked more often than not?
You?
Besides me, conservative politicians, Republicans, all of these people like PolitiFact and all these other, they go after Republicans. But anyhow, according to the Post-Dispatch, they actually did a fact check on this, and what the Post-Dispatch is saying is like, no, this is not true. And by the way, I wish people like the Post-Dispatch, when they talk about critical race theory refers to the study of systemic racism in society. That's verbatim Post-Dispatch. I wish them and all the other national news outlets, instead of saying systemic racism in society, how about they said perceived systemic racism, perceived? I think it'd be more accurate. So there's some provisions of, per the Post-Dispatch, qualifications for being able to get on to one of these as it relates to minorities getting into the legal weed business. Qualifications include having a net worth that goes to all this stuff. But one of the things it talks about people being required to live in residing in a zip code or census tract that meets certain conditions. I think most people know when you talk about certain zip codes. It's like areas northeast of Columbia, that area. We know what they are saying. CRT in schools, no, but I think it definitely sounds like it's fluffy enough that they're saying, well, you got to meet certain zip codes and certain factors, and I think we all know what that means. Yeah. So that's the thing. So, and I'm guilty of this as much as I like to think that I know. Yeah, legalize weed, sure. It's time. Well past time. But then you start, and it's like, man, there's a lot of other stuff in there, but how much are you willing? And I'm thinking about me voting personally, just, okay, yeah, I'm for legalized weed, and I don't use weed, don't use marijuana, but you should have that choice. Plus the money that we can make, and it is not physically addictive. Most of the people that tell me that weed is physically addictive have never smoked weed in their life. They're people that went to school, was told, I know what you learned in a book. I know what your instructors told you in school, but you don't know what you are talking about in a lot of these situations. It's the same thing. All these people say, well, marijuana is physically addictive. No, it's not physically addictive. And have you ever smoked the weed? No? Well, you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm in favor of it, but there's a lot of other things in here that I start to wonder, like, man, am I going to have to get on the Google and do some more research on this issue? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. We're getting a couple of notifications. Apparently, there's an accident on 63. Highway 63 southbound is backed up. So 63 southbound heading to Jeff City. And this is by where KOMU Channel 8 is. You see the big tower and Channel 8 signage out there. Accident 63 north. 3 cars, a couple of fire trucks, several folks texting us. If you are in that area, text is always cool. But if you're actually there, if you could call us, let us know what you're seeing. That would be helpful. Coming up, What's Hot with Hannah? We're going to do this.
I love ranch dressing as much as the next Midwesterner. Yeah. But Hidden Valley's doing something real weird, and I'm not sure I can get behind it.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
actually 7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Reeling it back in after a couple days of missing the mark.
I was on a win streak. And then got on a losing streak, kind of like the Cardinals, who, by the way, are going to be facing the Phillies in a rematch of the 2011 National League Playoff Series, which Cardinals went on to win the World Series. So that's pretty exciting. 7:25, something we want to do years ago, and I think maybe now I've done it more on time because we're always running late. We as a show, all of us, running late, and because we all got a bunch of stuff to say. So for years it's been 7:28, but now 7:25.
Personal responsibility, Brandon.
Yes, dear.
How did your 7:10 topic go that you wrote down?
Corey Bush?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I'm like, dang it, I even wrote down 7:10. Corey Bush, defund the police. Congresswoman from Missouri and what she told George Stephanopoulos yesterday. Had it in writing. And
Wah.
Well, I blame you guys for not reminding me. What's hot with Hannah today?
We're going to talk about one of Stephanie's favorite subjects.
I'm a progressive all of a sudden. It's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. I'm blaming everybody else. Because that's what progressive right now. It's not everybody else's fault. No responsibility on my part. By the way, accident 63 apparently northbound. This in the area where Channel 8 is. Brian Hausworth working to get you more details. If you're in that area, please give us a call, 874-9390.
We're going to talk about one of Stephanie Bell's favorite things, ranch dressing. It's on the long list of things that Stephanie doesn't like.
Santa Claus.
Birds.
Dogs.
Sandwiches.
Puppy breath.
But Hidden Valley Ranch has been kind of known for doing some weird, PR things. They've released a line of merch. Like, if you want to buy a Hidden Valley sweatshirt for whatever reason, you can on their website.
Okay.
They're taking it to the next level.
Guess what Stephanie Bell's getting for Christmas?
Oh, God.
A Hidden Valley Ranch sweatshirt.
Well, they have released a home collection. So they have everything from wallpaper to coasters to blankets that you can purchase coming soon, it says on the website. And it's I guess not blatantly ranch dressing. It's kind of like a funky, colorful, artistic design.
Is that on the Facebook page?
It is not, but you can go to hiddenvalley.com.
Hiddenvalley.com. Because that's...
And does anybody truly love ranch enough to purchase Hidden Valley coasters and things for your house?
I'm just glad. I thought you were going to say there were those Glade plugins that made your house smell like ranch. So that would be gross.
I know it's a big meme on the internet that we in the Midwest love our ranch dressing. But come on, this is... I don't know. You can even do a bed in a bag for $230. Have a Hidden Valley bedspread.
That's some dedication.
It is.
Ranchify your home when you get on your Hidden Valley. Ranchify your home. Look at me, having all the dudes over to watch the Chiefs for the next football game.
Oh, Stephanie, they have a little pouch that you could put your makeup in, like a little zippered pouch.
Yay.
Yeah,
so excited.
I'm getting some good Christmas ideas over here.
So here's what I'm already thinking. I'm thinking this is going to be like the next Snuggie. Remember the Snuggie? You could order this stuff off the TV, and God, everybody had a Snuggie. You'd send them to relatives for Christmas, relatives that you were like, whatever, $10, I got to do it because it's my turn this year to buy Aunt Ethel some. And everybody would have the little Snuggie. That's what this is. I think it's like the next Snuggie blanket stuff. It's ranch stuff. Inside the Capitol, what was going down yesterday as our special session was coming to an end? Ag. By the way, ag industry in Missouri, $100 billion a year, if not more. Your paycheck is going to get better to the good because of what's happened over the past couple of weeks in Jefferson City. And Caleb Rowden is here to offer some insight 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Today, we brought in a group of conservative young women and wanted to get their honest opinions about what they're looking for in the guys they date. What are you looking for in a partner?
They just have to be a conservative.
Definitely someone that wants to have kids.
I like an independent man. Personally, I like the alpha male vibe.
I want a man who really loves his family.
I love that. It's a commercial for, it's a dating app, and it's called The Right Stuff. And it's for people that are, I guess that's the first thing. When I'm dating somebody, I just want to know their politics, which I kind of think is interesting. I've always thought, listen, you meet somebody and you like them or you don't. To base it on politics, I get that. Maybe you weed through a lot of the trash on, both ends, but I just think it's really interesting. Want to bring in State Senator Caleb Rowden, Majority Leader in the Senate, before we talk about the end of our special session and our paychecks changing to the good because of what happened in Jeff City. I want to ask you and your lovely wife, Aubrey, when you guys first met, was that like a consideration? Was y'all's politics?
We met in second grade, so
okay.
So the short answer is no.
No. Okay. So let me ask you:
we started dating in high school, so
as a second grader, what was important to you? It wasn't politics.
When we first met, I think we thought each other were repulsive because it was you didn't really like the other sex when you were in second grade, but we reconnected in junior high and high school, and I married her because I think she's beautiful, and I'm not. So you gotta find the catch when you can, and then hold on to it.
That's right. You dated above your pay grade. Good work, Senator.
Absolutely.
Good work. Not all of us guys are able to do it, and you did it. Incidentally, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about your married life and your lovely family with the 2 kids. We got important stuff regarding the end of session want to talk about and see if maybe you can give us some insight into what we can expect next session. What was it? How did you first ask her out? You guys went to school together and then you reconnected in high school. How did that work out that you asked her out on that first date?
Yeah, we went to church together. That's where we met initially, and then went to church all throughout our formative years. And then in high school we started dating again. And I actually, to propose to her, wrote her a song that got played right before. So that would have been, July. It was been the July 4th fireworks show that they always play the soundtrack on the radio. We knew some radio folks, so they played the song right before the July 4th soundtrack for Fire in the Sky started on a few different radio stations. So we had it all worked out that she and I would be in the car together. So it was pretty fun.
Dude, you're raising the bar. Any other dude right now that's thinking about asking somebody to marry him? Like, man, did you hear what Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden did? I got to live up to. What's the name of that song, Caleb?
I couldn't even tell you, honestly.
It was a
song a long time ago. That was 2004, I think.
And it was a song you wrote?
I did write it, yeah. I wrote it for her.
Well, whenever you find out what that song is, let us know. You going to be at the Boone County Chili Supper tomorrow?
I'm hoping to be. I'm actually on my way to St. Charles and then to Branson, and then I'm coming back. If I get back in time, I'll be there. So.
And meanwhile, being a father and a husband who's married above his pay grade. Caleb Rowden, Senate Majority Leader, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. I am Branden Rathert. How do you feel if we were asked you to give the special session a grade? What do you give it?
I think it was an A. I mean, if we're grading on the curve of the way the Senate has been, it was an A+. We were able to get both things done that the governor had called us in for, the tax cut that ended up being, $1 billion, $1.2 billion worth of tax cuts, which is obviously not insignificant for everyday Missourians, everyday taxpayers, and then the package of agriculture. Incentives that a few of them were new, some of them were just re-ups of existing programs, but, 2 separate issues, but certainly important issues for a lot of various Missourians. So we got them both done. We got them done with relatively little fireworks and fanfare, and we got in and out of there, and happy to be done, and happy to have those things off the plate so we can go into next year.
Leader Rowden, we appreciate you joining us live on the program. We appreciate you taking the time because I know you're very busy. I did ask the governor. You probably heard the governor's response. I asked him about Leader Quaid's comments about the tax cut, and basically he responded. I think you've probably heard that, and I've run it in several newscasts. But I'll ask you as well. Her and Peter Meredith, the ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, they say that the tax cut will blow a huge hole in the state budget. She says maybe as much as $2 billion. And what Leader Quaid wanted to see is this money used to be put back into the Department of Social Services to pay the employees better. She said they're overworked, they're underpaid. She says we have one employee who is selling his plasma to pay his bills. Do you have any response to what she's saying?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, their synopsis of the impact of the cut is wrong, patently wrong by anybody's measure that has put numbers to this thing. A number of nonpartisan folks. We think it's going to be the initial impact actually is going to be quite low, a few $100 billion. And then the ongoing impact is based on these triggers. And so we have to have substantive growth in the economy for these triggers to hit. And so, I mean, the notion that somehow we're going to blow a hole in the budget is ridiculous and is certainly political. Secondly, I'd say I just never want to be a part of the party that is fighting giving money back to taxpayers. I mean, I think you have to be responsible about it. You can't be foolish with how you do what you do, and we shouldn't make fiscal policy based on politics. But the reality of this situation is that we've not done any of those things. We've actually done it responsibly, and to be able to be a part of the party, generally speaking, that is for giving taxpayers some of their money back as often as possible, and we're sitting on $5, $6, $7, $8 billion. That's just it's a pretty untenable position for those folks, which is the reason why they're in historically low minorities, and I think they're going to continue to be because they're just not in step with the people of Missouri.
Missouri State Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Sure. Yeah, that's right. I mean, agriculture is everybody and the Democrats, again, kind of being out of step with where Missouri is. They talked a lot about in some of the conversation on the floor, this being, a handout, subsidy, et cetera. The reality is agriculture is so heavily regulated. We wish it was a wide open free market, but the federal government put that to bed a long time ago. And so you have to figure out ways to keep those prices low, to your point, John, because, we are dealing with higher than normal prices in a lot of areas, food included right now. And so you've got to find ways to give these guys a break, give these guys an opportunity and incentivize them to continue to produce, continue to do what they're doing and do it while being able to put food on their own table, for their families and for the folks that they support. And so, it isn't the sexiest thing. It's not the thing that, we're going to probably yell and scream about getting done, but it was something that was just necessary. And like I said, those credits, some of them we re-upped because they've been working well. I think some of those will go away at some points, and then we'll find new ways because I think the agriculture industry as a whole is changing enough, that hopefully we can, as a state government, can kind of evolve with it and make sure we're pointing those incentives in the right direction and not just giving away free money, which certainly I don't think anybody supports.
So does the swiftness with which this and the success of special session, I guess it was a little bit delayed over the initial predictions, but certainly a successful special session, does it say anything about how next session might go?
Well, I think so. I mean, you do have the one kind of reality that in specials, especially around campaign time, just people don't want to be there any more than they have to be. So maybe they pull back the rhetoric, maybe in some cases. But I do think, there seems to be just a growing sort of a rising tide within the caucus to say, hey, we still have our differences. We can't wave a flag and completely erase the tension that has existed. But the thing that I've told everybody, obviously everybody knows I'm running to be the president of the Senate. I've met with everybody in person probably at this point. And the thing that I tell them is, look, I got into this thing because I wanted to make my community better. I wanted to leave a better world for my kids. And I'm just not going to let any sort of personal animosity I may or may not have toward anybody else get in the way of that. And that's really been my message to everybody else is, we will have our moments where we disagree. We will have our moments where we're at odds because of, policy or something else. But at the end of the day, we're there for 8 years. We're in the Senate for 8 years, if we're lucky. And, you have to be willing to make the big things, and be willing to put your egos and those sorts of things aside. So, we did that. This was a test run, and it seemed to be moving that direction. Doesn't mean that next year will be perfect, but I certainly think we're moving the right direction. And I like the group of incoming folks that are coming in to help, continue us down that road.
We've got some close House races here in mid-Missouri, and I know in the past you've told us how well the House members and you have worked together for mid-Missouri. Are you out and about with those folks, campaigning, lending support? How do you see those races going?
Yeah, I know the John Martin, Adrian Plank race is certainly one that I think is a toss-up, and yeah, we're the folks that work with me politically also help run House races, and so they're lending their support, and we're certainly trying to figure out ways to make sure that John gets across the finish line. I've known him for a period of years from faith-based activities, and so I feel confident we'll win that one, and I think there's at least one other one that's a possibility. So hopefully we can stay where we've been, as far as the RD split.
John Martin, pretty solid individual, as is Jim Musgraves, who's running for the seat currently held by Sarah Walsh. Before we move forward, want to mention, so I go to the Columbia Pachyderm meetings a lot of Fridays, noontime. I've seen you there occasionally over the years, and friends say, well, you need to get Caleb to come back in here. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. So I've said that. It's out there. You know about it. Anything else that you would like to add before we let you go, sir?
I think we're good.
All right.
Everybody has a good day.
Yep. And I know it's only October, but 2 months from now, we're going to start pre-filing. Any buzz, any talk on anything that is sexy that we might look for in the pre-filing in December?
Oh yeah, I think there'll be, I think there'll be a lot of stuff. We're working on, more education reform, more ideas and ways to give parents more choice and make sure that they know what's going on with their kids' education. And there'll be a whole host of other things. I bet you'll have. We're filing more bills than we ever have before, which I'm not sure is a good thing, but it is a reality. So we'll weed through the bad ideas to get to the good ones, hopefully.
Senate Majority Leader Caleb Rowden, tell your wife Aubrey we said hello, and we hope you have a good day. Safe travels.
Will do.
Through St. Charles and Branson. Cori Bush, Congresswoman, St. Louis area. She was on with George Stephanopoulos on ABC yesterday. And George asked her kind of an interesting question.
You're one of the few Democrats now who still says, let's defund the police. Are you worried at all that could hurt some of your colleagues going into the midterm elections?
So how did she answer that question? Because we know that there are a lot of Democrats. They've backed away from that because it's stupid. How did she answer? Hear the way she answered that question.
Black Lives Matter does nothing for the black community. They have weaponized that phrase, Black Lives Matter, to exploit the black community and corporation. Let's be very clear, Sean. The only thing that Black Lives Matter cares about is the scenario of a black suspect and a white police officer.
That's Leo Terrell on Fox yesterday with Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity here on the radio station, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Wonder if he'll talk about that more. And they had Leo Terrell on talking about BLM. We know what they did fraudulently with all that money and the homes that Patrice Cullors, the founder of Black Lives Matter, bought. And Leo Terrell is spot on. That's what they're interested in. Black kid getting shot by a white cop doing nothing to advance anything for black people, at least anybody I've ever talked to. And so he was on the show because Kanye West wore a shirt the other day, said White Lives Matter. And if you're not familiar with Kanye West, he's a black musician, kind of a thorn in the side of a lot of folks, really.
He's considered to run for president in the past?
Considered to run for president. He wore a shirt. He's black. Wore a shirt that says White Lives Matter. Candace Owens, also black Politico, I guess, if you will. She wore a shirt at the same as some fashion show. Said, White Lives Matter, White Lives Matter. And somebody was asking somebody about that, and they said, don't you find that offensive, Brandon? I'm like, well, what's offensive about it? And they said, well, because Black Lives Matter, it means this, this, and that. So when you say White Lives Matter, it really bothers people. I said, so it's offensive because some people's feelings are hurt? Well, yeah. I said, so is there anything, is that a false statement to say White Lives Matter? I said, well, no. I said, do all lives matter? Well, yeah, but see, when you say it, some people's feelings get hurt. That's not my problem. That's not our problem. That's their problem, and it's BS. Cori Bush, Congresswoman, St. Louis. How much is her? She got a nice security detail, man.
I think, wasn't it like $70,000, $80,000?
Something like that. She pays a lot of money to have a security detail, but she doesn't want her constituents in a part of St. Louis where they need more police than probably any other place in Missouri outside of a few locations in Kansas City. She's on with George Stephanopoulos yesterday talking about defund the police.
You're one of the few Democrats now who still says, let's defund the police. Are you worried at all that could hurt some of your colleagues going into the midterm elections?
See, the thing about defund the police is we have to tell the entire...
Immediately, I think back 4 years old. Okay, well, see, the thing about that is, Dad, like we do when we're kids.
Well, and she's been told by the National Democrats, you need to back off of this, lady.
Yeah, because it was a dumb idea, and people told us it was dumb. All those smart people said you can't defund the police. Well, we're going to do it anyway. San Antonio. By the way, the mayor of San Antonio, who yanked, I think it was a third of the police budget in San Antonio, he was at a funeral this past several days ago for an officer killed in the line of duty, fell asleep in the funeral. My goodness, these progressives are just... She went on, basically, Cori Bush's answer about defund. She gave word salad. Well, we can't focus on the word defund. That's what it is, man. Coming up, 8:10, local teacher gets some remarkable kudos and a remarkable check. That story coming up at 8:10 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Columbia Police, at approximately 6:45 p.m., Columbia Police responded to a report that an individual had been pushed over a bridge at Clark Lane and northbound Highway 63. Upon arrival, an individual was located who needed medical attention, and we have identified a person of interest.
Columbia Police Department's Christian Tabak chatting with a couple of TV stations last night after this guy apparently pushed a woman over the interchange there, 63 and 70. We have an update to that story. The woman that he allegedly pushed over the overpass there has died. So you do a search of the guy who, by the way, he's just a suspect. I don't think he's been charged yet. Howsworth, has this guy been charged?
That takes some time.
Okay.
No,
Right.
Pending charges because they'll need to be reviewed by the prosecutor.
So the guy who is the suspect in the case, 28-year-old, well, I guess actually he's, 32?
He's 31.
31.
His birthday is November the 2nd, so it's coming up.
Back in 2018, he was charged in a stabbing, and this was at a Casey's General Store in Columbia.
Yes.
So he's in jail, charged with stabbing at a gas station, convenience store. While he's in the jail, this dude, while a jailer's bringing him a food tray, he grabs her, puts her in a headlock, goes to her belt, removes some handcuffs, hooks one onto her hand, hooks one onto his. So then he's in jail, now facing additional charges, first-degree assault, second-degree kidnapping.
Now he's out and floating around and pushing people off of bridges. What in the world happened?
What people need to understand, and I hope people listen to this very, very closely. I hope they do, because Brandon and I have talked about this extensively with the chief. Missouri is a conditional release state, so I know there'll be a little outrage over this, but it'll be subside tomorrow because that's usually what happens. But if folks want this changed, they need to go to the legislature and have them change the law. We are a conditional release state, which means that they calculate these things by percentages. And it was, I can't, it's impossible to see with priors, but based on his priors, now it still seems to me that it's low, but under conditional release for assault, and I'm stunned that his charge was second-degree assault, his conviction. It looks to me like he served, if not the maximum, as close to the maximum, and then under state law, they have to conditional release him. That's my impression of this, looking at it initially. But if people want that change, they need to go to the legislature. See, we shut down 2 prisons in this state. We shut down one in Jeff City a couple of years ago, Church Farm, and before that in Cameron. We don't have the capacity that we did, and they did that to quote-unquote save money. But the issue here is that they're supposed to reserve the beds for the obviously dangerous felons. This guy is, but again, sometimes charges get pleaded down. How that ended up as a second-degree assault without but the bottom line is he got a 7-year sentence, and he served, it looks to me, ballpark about 4. Now, he is facing potentially first-degree murder charges, which means, and they're going to want to elaborate, that means to me they have evidence that it was premeditated, allegedly have evidence it was premeditated.
By the way, 1 week from today, deadline to register to vote. We're going to be chatting with Steve Korsmeyer, Cole County Clerk, here in just a few minutes. I want to mention, because the other things, that 6370 where this woman was pushed off the bridge, police have a suspect who's apparently, dude assaulted a deputy in the jail in Boone County right after he'd stabbed somebody at a gas station. And this guy's out on the streets. The other thing we're getting, so in that 6370 area, there's a lot of homeless people, separately also a lot of panhandlers. And so we don't know if it was the we don't know any of that, but I will say that's all these people are talking about, well, we need to bring these homeless people, we need to throw tax money and buy them a home and we'll rent some unicorns and rainbows and it will be all lovely and stuff. And we don't know that this guy involved was homeless. We don't know that, okay? But that is the problem with that. Tanya Heath, who ran for mayor of Columbia. She spends a lot of time talking to these homeless people. They are coming here from other parts of the state because Columbia has done a great job of marketing. Hey, if you're homeless, come here because we take Brian Houseworth's tax dollars and we're going to buy homeless shelters. And it's becoming known in Missouri to come here. And that is frustrating, not to imply that all homeless people are up to no good. But that is something that these business owners, we heard even the warming station at the bus center downtown, these people are like, why are city leaders encouraging and marketing people, come to downtown Columbia, spend your money on Friday and Saturday nights here, and then they invite the homeless down there in cooling and warming shelters. And then these business owners are coming up with a snow shovel in the morning, going to the front of their business and picking up human feces before the first customer gets there. These people are just insane. Welcome into the show. Brian Houseworth is here. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to chat with Steve Korsmeyer. There's Mr. John Marsh. Or Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. I want to bring in Steve Korsmeyer, Cole County Clerk. Mr. Korsmeyer, I got to tell you, man, I've heard a lot about you. It's been all good. Heard you're a phenomenal mechanic. So I got to say, man, your reputation precedes you. It's good to have you on the show.
Well,
first things first. We're getting, Stephanie and I have covered this. Okay, we've got valid IDs. A lot of people, though, are forgetting, apparently, to check the expiration date. New voting laws go into effect, election 34 days from now. Are you getting, what kind of inquiries are you getting at your office?
Just questions about the ID and that kind of stuff. They do have to have photo ID to vote absentee also. So they'll have to bring a photo ID here if they decide to vote absentee, and they'll need it for the 2 weeks of no excuse absentee. They'll need a photo ID. If they don't have it here, they can't cast a provisional ballot here. It has to be a photo ID, so they have to go back and get one. So we're trying to encourage everybody to bring it with them when they come.
All right, and it's got to be all up to date and stuff. Stephanie Bell was in a panic the other day.
Yeah, I was checking my license expiration date.
There's been some questions on that, and the Secretary of State, I guess, is going to put out a press release on it. But they said that it could be an expired license, but it has to be within 2 years expired. It can't be like expired for longer than 2 years. So it has to be.
That's interesting because we were just is this a new thing, Mr. Korsmeyer? They're saying so it can be expired, but it can't be more than 2 years past the expiration date.
Right. It has to be expired after the November 2020 election. So it has to be after that. And it's very confusing. It's going to be very confusing for our election judges. So I appreciate the legislatures for that. But
so it is confusing.
That's what they come up with.
So is that are you getting some traction there at the office? You said it is confusing. Are people calling you like, "Hey, Mr. Korsmeyer, I'm confused here"? Are you getting some of that?
Not yet, but you'll probably stir that up, I'd say.
Not yet. And now
will. Not yet, but
thanks,
we
Steve.
will. Thanks.
Steve, sorry about that. Steve Korsmeyer.
That's all right.
Cole County Clerk joining us here on the show.
Now, it's still early, but I guess folks are already able to come into your office and vote absentee with an excuse. And then, I think everyone in mid-Missouri was really disappointed with the last turnout. Are you already kind of looking at those numbers, and are you expecting a better turnout for the general?
I'm hoping the no excuse absentee will bring some people in that might not have been able to vote with their busy schedules. So we'll know when it's over, of course, what it is. That's kind of a slow start. So far, we've had 62 people vote here in the office with excuses, but I'm curious to see if that picks up the 2 weeks prior to the election. I'm hoping it will help out and probably alleviate some of our lines on election day, maybe, some of our congestion at our polling places.
Okay.
So I think it's a positive.
Let me try to make it up to you, Steve, by potentially launching an avalanche of phone calls to your this afternoon at the Cole County Clerk's office. What kind of let's be preemptive here, man. What kind of questions can you answer now? Biggest questions people are asking. What are the answers to the biggest, two or three most common questions you're getting?
So the biggest things, I guess, coming up is the last day to register to vote for this election is next Wednesday, the 12th. That'll be the last day that they can register. So if you're not registered, if you're new to Cole County, then you need to get your information updated. Go on our website, go on the Secretary of State's website, come into our office, whatever it takes. The new law does require you to, if you've moved anywhere within Missouri and you're a registered voter, you can still vote that day. There's This is only for new voters to the state of Missouri. So you can change your address on Election Day. You have to do that in our office, though. That's going to be something new. Like if you've moved from county to county and you need to update your address on Election Day, you have to do it in our office only. You cannot go to a polling place and do it. It has to be done here. And so that's something else that's going to have to come out into a big press release from the Secretary of State's office, I would assume.
All right. Interesting conversation. Cole County Clerk Steve Korsmeyer joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS.
That is correct, and that's pretty confusing, too. Some people have mailed their registrations here and various things. So that's all done through the Secretary of State's office. It's all policed through the Secretary of State's office, so we really don't have any, we don't have any records here of anybody that has signed up or hasn't signed up or needs to sign up. We have done some, we've done some people that have done voter drives and stuff. We have sworn them in, get them where they can check IDs and turn in their voter ID registrations where we can send cards out right away. So we've had some people do that. Well, that's encouraging to get people registered. So. The problem is if a person does a voter drive and we don't know who's filling out the data when we can't give them a card because we don't know if their ID's been checked or not, and the cards come back incomplete, no phone numbers, no apartment numbers. So it is hard. It's confusing. It amazes to me is that people will take the time to fill out a voter registration card and they won't fill it out properly or they won't put a phone number or anything on there, and we mail it and the post office brings it right back to us. So it's a lot of effort trying to get people to register, but if you don't do it correctly, well, then it just comes right back to us and it doesn't accomplish anything.
Election judges, poll workers, several counties here in mid-Missouri. As a matter of fact, chatting with Brianna Lennon, Boone County clerk. And for a couple of months now we've been talking. She says, I need Republican poll workers. I need Republican poll workers. Matter of fact, she's going to the Boone County Pachyderm Chili Supper, annual chili supper tomorrow night. She's there for the express purpose of trying to recruit poll workers, Republican poll workers, for the general election coming up 34 days from now. By the way, if you want to attend that chili supper, that is tomorrow night. Tickets still available. Just search Boone County Pachyderm Chili Supper. Mr. Korsmeyer, anything else that you would like to add to be of service to folks here in mid-Missouri before we let you go?
Nope, just get out to vote. You really don't have an excuse. They made it about as easy as they can with the no excuse voting 2 weeks before the election. So, of course, every place will be open from 8 to noon on the Saturday before the election. So that also gives you a good opportunity to come in and vote the no excuse absentee. So we look forward to getting it all worked out.
Cole County Clerk Steve Korsmeyer, thank you for being so accommodating last minute, by the way. We do appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you. Morning Bell coming up a few minutes from now. This is kind of business news, kind of politics. High-profile athlete that spent some time here in Missouri. Tyreek Hill broke our hearts when he left the Chiefs. Ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. He had the opportunity to go and play for the New York Jets. New York Jets not that good, but a lot of players, they like the allure of the number one media market in America, and he was asked why he didn't go to New York.
You know what? It was very close to happening, man. But it's just those state taxes, man. I realized, I had to make a grown-up decision.
So he's referring to the high income tax in New York. So he may not have known it, but kind of stuck his toe into a little bit of politics. Does that count as Morning Bell-ish stuff?
Ish.
All right. What do you have for your Morning Bell coming up 5 minutes from now?
Of course, you already know. We've got
Good morning, 826. Time for the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. And I got to say, man, I think Stephanie deserves a round of applause because, like, it's 6:01 when we came on air this morning. I know she's been bursting at the seams to talk about it because there are some implications here outside of just the business world. It's cool for anybody on Twitter, which we are. I'm at Rathert Branden, at Stephanie S. Bell, at producer_Hannah. So we're all on Twitter. And Stephanie's been able to hold back until the morning bell here at 8:25 this morning.
So it was all tied up in litigation. Elon had said that Twitter didn't properly disclose all of the bot spam users, and they were going to go to trial, I think, in November. And word on the street is he thought maybe my chances aren't so good. And so he's like, you know what? I'm going to just buy it anyway. This was disclosed yesterday. Twitter's stock price shot up, I think, like in the realm of like 20%. So good news for Twitter shareholders. Also, but importantly for everybody, right? And people were excited when he first announced this. It's been kind of this ongoing saga, and it seemed like it could be forever. Now they're saying the deal could close like in a week. You know, so it happened very quickly. But importantly, we want to remember what Elon said he would do. And his changes he was going to make to Twitter. So number one, he said he would reverse the ban on Donald Trump. He also said he would make that Twitter should be more politically neutral. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I don't know. It depends on who's saying it.
Right?
If it's a conservative saying it, then I agree. If it's a progressive saying it, then I disagree.
Yeah, he also said he wants to stick to the law, which basically means, and Elon's been a big free speech guy. So, you know, hey, if the law allows for free speech in your jurisdiction, we should be able to allow you to say things on Twitter, without all the bans. He also says he wants Twitter to be less niche. And he kind of Twitter's like an exclusive club. I don't know that I agree with that. I kind of like how Twitter kind of self-selects into really weird political nerds and then business bros. Because when I go to Twitter, I know that that's what I'm going to get. Facebook, I don't think is really niche. Everybody has it. And so it's kind of just all over the place. So I kind of like the fact that certain people self-select into Twitter. But I guess he, and obviously he's a businessman. So he's more people should use Twitter because obviously that means more money in his pocket. And he also had suggested that perhaps there would be paid because right now Twitter's free, but maybe that there would be certain users that would be able to pay, and there would be different ways to use the platform. So I think people inside of Twitter are also concerned about things he said about the workplace itself.
That's your morning bell this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, details on how if you are a qualifying family, you get over $6,000 in scholarship money for your kids at school. Gene Evans, who is with the Federation for Children, joins us to talk about education savings accounts.
award for this program. It's like this is going to help future generations of not just us, but kids to be inspired to want to come in here, put their hard work in, knowing that the character traits and the personality behind him is just going to just keep driving this program forward.
That's student Asher Kemp chatting with KOMU Channel 8 after his teacher, whose name is Jared Monroe, after his teacher received a check for $100,000 from Harbor Freight. They have a program called Tools for Schools, and they award teaching excellence. And this is within the Columbia Public Schools. It's the Columbia Area Career Center. Jared Monroe, he's the guy. So the check, $100,000, $70,000 will actually go to the Career Center. And Mr. Monroe, the teacher, gets $30,000 of that, which I think is pretty cool. And that's one of his students just glowing on this guy. Yeah, what this guy does, he gets through to us. And I appreciate, and that's one of the things that we can compliment the Columbia schools on. And a lot of schools really here in mid-Missouri, they're getting, okay, you know, maybe preparation for your professional life is not necessarily for 6-8 years in college books at Mizzou or Truman State or Lincoln University. Maybe it's, you know, doing some other things, and that's what they're doing there. So wanted to give kudos to that guy, and to that end, want to kind of keep our focus on education a little bit as we talk about kind of school choice. And then there's a program, and it's been kind of a couple of years in the make. A couple of years ago, there's a bill passed, and it has to do with a kind of like a savings account for your kids.
ESAs.
So something like you're a mom, you have 3 kids. This is big stuff for you.
I don't qualify, but Gene can tell us who does qualify. It's big. It is, I think, for school choice advocates, it was the opening of the door of future school choice reform, and it is going to significantly help students that need it most.
So joining us now to kind of break this down for us, Jean Evans. She is with the Federation for Children, talking about this education savings account program. Sounds huge for local parents, Jane. So tell us exactly, what do parents need to know about this?
Good morning. Yeah, it's great to be with you. And it's actually a scholarship, but it comes in the form of a savings account. So I want to clarify, this is free money to pay for school. So in this instance, the money follows the child. So if the family qualifies, they are granted the scholarship money. It goes into an account, and it can pay for either tuition to a private school or other special services. If your child has special needs, it qualifies for occupational therapy and other therapies they may need, like speech therapy or tutoring. But the qualifications have to do with if the student has an IEP, which is an individual education. I can't even remember what that means. If your child has one, you know it.
Yeah.
And it comes from the public school, but it's for special needs students who often have expensive needs. And oftentimes, I mean, we do have a lot of wonderful teachers, but all our students are different, and not every school has the resources to serve every student. So this is an opportunity for parents of special needs students to get the scholarship, and there aren't any income requirements on that. Now, for the low-income scholarship, it is, and it has to do with how they qualify, has to do with the reduced and school lunch program. So if your child qualifies for reduced or free school lunch, they may qualify for this program. And the way to know that out, the easiest way to figure this out is to go to showmeschooloptions.org. That's one word, showmeschooloptions.org. And you type in some information, and it will tell you if you qualify. So that's how parents, rather than trying to read through the bill and figure it out like, you know, legislators have to do, that's the way to figure it out. And I do want to say, this is the first step in what has been a very long journey thus far towards more educational freedom for families. But Stephanie is right. We're just getting started.
So you're saying, you know, I've heard there are students out there that are qualifying that for the scholarships, but right now there's not enough funds. And the way it's been expressed to me is, you know, I'm paying the taxes anyway. So is there a way for me, as someone who supports school choice and educational freedom, to kind of earmark those dollars to go toward these programs as opposed to just going to fund, you know, the general fund?
Absolutely. So it's funded by tax credits. So up to 50% of whatever taxes you owe for the year. So if you owe, I'm going to use round numbers. Say you owe the state $10,000. You can apply for $5,000 tax credit which means 5,000 of the 10 you owe can go to this scholarship program. And then you would pay the rest of your taxes, the 5,000. So it's a dollar for dollar. It's better than a deduction. Oftentimes we give to schools that are nonprofits and we get to take a little bit of a deduction. But this is a tax credit, dollar for dollar. So it is exceptional. And there are a couple ways to figure out like how you want to do that. My suggestion would be, first thing, if you have a school that you really want to support their scholarships, contact the school and talk to them about it, because they will tell you the best way to go about that. Or if you just want to support this program and you don't have a school specifically, or say you want to support homeschoolers, because we do support homeschoolers who qualify for this program. If you go on the Treasurer's website, they list what are called EAOs. They're educational assistance organizations. I'm sorry for all the lingo, but that's government for you. So if you go on there, you can look at these EAOs and contact one of them to do a scholarship and ask them, hey, do you support these type of schools or homeschools or whatever, and find out from them. So you actually get to direct your money. I mean, so many of us as taxpayers feel like that money kind of goes into an endless pit, right? Like we don't know where it goes. Here you get to direct half of your state taxes to an educational organization of your choice.
Now, I've been seeing a lot of talk online from friends that I know that have gone to some of these schools in St. Louis that are closing down, and people in those communities are just heartbroken. I'm not in St. Louis, so can you tell me what's going on there and how this program might help with those kinds of issues?
That's a great question. So right now there are 2 high schools that they've announced are closing, but there will be more grade schools as well. The Archdiocese, this is Catholic schools, the Archdiocese announced that they are supported by the Archdiocese, and because of low enrollment or other reasons, they are closing these schools. And if people took advantage of this program, let's say we had 100 new students at St. Mary's School, which is getting one of the schools that's supposed to close, 100 students that received a scholarship of $63.75, that's a lot of money. That would be more than what they receive from the Archdiocese, and they would have the students and they would have the funding to stay open. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to get much headway through the Archdiocese to talk about this. They have a lot on their plate, and it just isn't something that they've expressed a lot of interest in. But we really see this as a way to save these community schools. And I got to tell you, and St. Mary's is a bedrock of that community. Mm-hmm. And if that school closes in that neighborhood, the decline you will see will be beyond what we've already seen in parts of St. Louis. And there are parts of St. Louis that are declining. And there are other parts where a parish school or a high school has really held the neighborhood together. It's part of the community. And it's so important that we keep these institutions going, because they are such a vibrant part of the community and families, and keeping families in the area. And, the city of St. Louis is losing population like crazy for a number of reasons, but one of them is because of a failing educational system. So if parents who are, below that income level aren't forced to go to the failing public school, but have the option to go to a school that reflects their values and teaches their kids how to read and write, that will help the community of St. Louis stay more thriving and less decline, at least in my opinion. And that's what we've seen in other states. Like in Florida, where they have a robust program, private school and Catholic school enrollment grows. And in some of these neighborhoods that had these schools that were declining, they're starting to see a turnaround. So this is a proven way to preserve neighborhoods in urban areas.
By the way, in that St. Mary's School, so I lived behind that for a lot of years in some really cheap apartment complexes and spent a lot of time hanging out there at St. Mary's. And you're right, it was a part of the community and not just our neighborhood, because the school it's on Grand Boulevard in South St. Louis. And it's just, and I was shocked last week when I read the accounts that they're shutting down, as is Rosanna King. Joining us on the show this morning, Gene Evans, Federation for Children, talking about education savings account programs and scholarships this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yes, absolutely. And the some of the EAOs are a little hesitant on the homeschooling, but there is a Christian EAO that's listed on the Treasurer's website that is working specifically with homeschoolers. And it can be used to pay out-of-district tuition. But I would like to say, I mean, not to get off topic, but we're really hoping the legislature will pass an open enrollment bill this year. We're going to be working on that so that people can go to other schools that are nearby that are in a different district. So they're not relegated to whatever zip code they're in. So we would love to see the legislature pass that, what's called an open enrollment bill.
Amen. I also think, as a parent, though, I think like the eligibility is a little bit confusing. And you said, we use a lot of acronyms and then we use terms, and people in their minds have very specific, they assign meanings to terms. And I think here you said, if you're lower income, you can qualify under certain circumstances, but there's no income eligibility if your kid has an IEP. And there, I think we use the term, if they have special needs, and people are like, well, I know what that meant, a long time ago, but I don't know what it means today. And I've had a lot of people around in my life, say, my kid's struggling in school, what's going on? And it could be, slight dyslexia. It could be auditory processing. It could be some of these minor issues. You go into the school, you say, hey, my kid's struggling in this environment, and talk to your teacher in your school about whether your kid would qualify for an IEP. And that would then make you eligible, if you haven't had that conversation already. Because I think a lot of parents are like, well, my kid's struggling, not doing as well as, I think they could be, but maybe, wouldn't classify them as, what people would traditionally assign to the term special needs. But a lot of folks would qualify for an IEP. They just haven't had that conversation. Is that your understanding of IEPs?
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know that parents realize that even if your kid is in a private school, you can go to the district and ask that your child be tested and set up an IEP if they qualify. So your student doesn't have to be enrolled in the local district. If you live there, you can ask for that. And also just parent advocacy. If your child is struggling, don't stop asking for support. And if you get shot down once or twice, just keep asking and go above that school. Go to the superintendent. Hey, call your state rep. When I was a state rep, I had a couple things come up in the district. Called the superintendent for the parents and got it sorted out. Because sometimes people at the local level, it's not because they don't love our kids. I'm not implying that. But sometimes they don't know, one, or two, they just get busy with other things. So make sure that your child is getting the resources they need. And I appreciate what you're saying about how confusing it is. And as a legislator, a lot of times we make a lot of concessions on bills just to get them passed. And I can tell you that this bill passed with the bare minimum votes in the House. And that's sort of the deal making that goes on. But ultimately, Stephanie, what we'd really like to see is full-on school choice where everyone understands that they get to choose the best educational option for their student, regardless of income, regardless of special needs. Let's let the parents decide what works best for their student.
All right, Gene Evans, Federation for Children, talking about savings accounts, scholarships, a lot of things as it relates to school choice. Always fascinating when we're fortunate enough to be able to sit and chat with you. Do appreciate it. Anything else that we need to add before we let you go?
Well, I would like to put in a promo for people to vote for school choice candidates. When they go to the polls in November, look at your state reps and state senators and, find out the ones who support parents and the ones who are going to vote for your kids. Those are the people that we need in office to bring educational freedom to our state.
Well, and I'll say this, and then for real, we have to go now because I'm really running way behind. But Caleb Rowden, Boone County Pachyderm Lincoln Days event year and a half ago, he said that night, Stephanie and I were in attendance, he said, education, education, education. It's going to be the next big thing for some time to come as it relates to politics. Gene Evans, thanks for your time on the show this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Appreciate you being here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, here's part of the show where we open up our refrigerators and we peek into the back, see what we've got left. Steph, anything that you didn't get a chance to get to on the show today?
Yeah, so the Missouri Supreme Court reversed a lower court ruling out of Cole County on the it was a law passed in 2018, sponsored by then I think Senator Kehoe. And essentially it had to do with unions and state workers, and it was related to the merit system, and essentially it would just give the state more flexibility in hiring and firing and rewarding state workers who were good, but a lot of people took it as an attack on labor unions. The lower court put a pause on the bill, basically saying that the state constitution guarantees a right to collective bargaining, and this impedes that right. The Supreme Court this week said no, it does limit collective bargaining, but it doesn't run afoul of the Constitution. So really interesting stuff that affects a lot of. I mean, we have so many state workers right here in Mid-Mo.
It's huge, the impact of what they do and how this could affect. Them. One of the things didn't get to this morning, Leftovers USA Today with an opinion piece titled "Biden's fly by the seat of his pants approach to canceling student debt loans is creating a huge mess." USA Today writes, shortly after this lawsuit was filed, there were a couple of lawsuits last week from folks, including our Attorney General and next Senator Eric Schmidt. Biden administration fine-tuned the wording, trying to clean their messes up. They're always cleaning up messes, And then check this out. After the lawsuit, however, the Education Department quietly updated its website on Thursday, saying that borrowers with certain type of loans actually would not qualify after they told that it would qualify. I had somebody I was talking with the other day, and they said, well, what's the difference between the personal, the Paycheck Protection Program stuff and this money? Well, that went through Congress. This didn't. Joe just waved his wand and made it so. Marsh, you got anything in your fridge?